all this area over here, done, waste, backfilled. But this right here is the line of pay. And you can see there's not much left. And that is a damn good feeling, my man.
$15 million. In the Yukon, that's more than a number. It's survival or ruin. Parker Schnabel bet everything on Dominion Creek. This wasn't mining. It was war against the odds. And the final weigh-in didn't just shock the crew, it changed everything. The anatomy of an all-or-nothing gamble. To truly understand the story of this season, you have to rewind. The thing is, Parker Schnabel didn't make this massive bet out of greed, he made it out of necessity. For years, his operation at Scribner Creek had been the envy of the Klondike, a reliable cash cow that produced millions of dollars in gold. But no claim lasts forever. The ground was getting thin, the pay less consistent. Parker was facing a crossroads that every successful miner eventually meets. Downsize the operation, letting go of the loyal crew members who had become like family, or take a monumental leap of faith. For a man defined by his relentless forward momentum, backing down wasn't an option. That leap was Dominion Creek. It's really strange, but what's really going on with this particular piece of land is that it's both a dream and a nightmare.
You've got a lot more waste in here than we bargained for, huh? I bet there's probably 5 feet in here at least of waste.
Because some areas down here I've run into like 8 feet of that big coarse rock, right?
Yeah, I don't know how long it's gonna take you. You got a lot of gravel.
For decades, miners have known it holds a fortune in gold, but that fortune is buried under 40 feet of dense frozen earth called overburden. To get to the pay dirt, you have to move millions upon millions of tons of this worthless muck. It's an engineering and financial challenge that has chewed up and spit out seasoned miners before. It was a place where fortunes were rumored to be, but rarely ever found. What really brings up a lot of questions is the number itself, $15 million. You see, behind the scenes, that figure wasn't just a wild guess. It was a cold, hard calculation. It was the multi-million-dollar price tag for the land itself. It was the investment in a fleet of the biggest, most powerful machinery he had ever owned. It was the staggering cost of fuel, with his machines burning through thousands of gallons of diesel every single day. And it was the payroll for a large professional crew capable of running the entire operation around the clock. The pressure was unimaginable. It wasn't just a mining season, it was a high-stakes business venture where every single minute cost a fortune, and the entire weight of it rested squarely on Parker's young shoulders. You won't believe the kind of loyalty Parker inspires, and this season put that loyalty to the ultimate test. A mine is nothing without its crew, and Parker's team was the human engine driving the whole colossal machine. These were the people enduring the brutal 12-hour shifts, working in the relentless mud and the bone-chilling Yukon cold.
I mean it from the bottom of my heart, and I hope that every one of you guys wants to come back, because every one of you guys has a spot here next year.
From Tyson, the steady and experienced foreman who translated Parker's grand plans into action on the ground, to the rock truck drivers and mechanics who kept the iron heart of the operation beating, everyone was pushed to their absolute limit. The thing is, one moment from this season perfectly captured the relationship between Parker and his crew. Mitch, one of Parker's most dedicated and hard-working crew members, was facing the soul-crushing reality of missing his daughter's birthday, on top of having a pregnant wife back home. The work was at its most critical point. The final push was on. Logic dictated that every hand was needed on deck. But Parker saw something more important than ounces of gold. What's really going on behind the scenes in that moment is a glimpse into Parker's character as a leader. He walked up to a tired, grease-stained Mitch and told him to go home. He didn't ask, he told him. "You've got a pregnant wife and a daughter's birthday to get home to, don't you? Get out of here," Parker said, brushing off Mitch's surprise. It was a decision that, in the short term, made the work harder for everyone else. But in the long term, it was an investment in something far more valuable than gold: loyalty. It sent a clear message to the entire crew that their boss, despite being under the gun for $15 million, saw them as human beings, not just cogs in a machine. That single act of compassion fueled a level of dedication that no paycheck ever could. The beast that ate the pay dirt. To conquer a claim as formidable as Dominion Creek, Parker needed a weapon to match. He found it in Roxanne, his colossal new wash plant. This machine was the absolute heart of the operation, a towering beast of steel, conveyor belts, and vibrating screens.
Oh, it needs a name.
It needs a name?
I'm really thinking that the old Goldie Box is
like Goldie
quite
Box?
fitting for that.
I just feel like in a year I'm gonna not like saying that. I don't know.
I do like Roxanne for a wash plant, right? Because it's like rock and sand, you know?
It was a hungry monster, designed for one purpose, to devour mountains of pay dirt and separate the tiny, precious flakes of gold from the worthless rock. You see, behind the scenes, the process is a symphony of controlled chaos. It began with the giant excavators, their massive buckets clawing at the pay dirt layer 40 feet down. They'd then dump tons of this material into the beds of rock trucks, which navigated the treacherous, muddy roads of the cut to the base of Roxanne. There, the pay dirt was blasted by high-pressure water cannons, transforming the solid, packed earth into a flowing, muddy slurry. The thing is, this is where the magic and the mechanics truly combine. The slurry was pumped up onto a massive, vibrating shaker deck. The noise was deafening, the whole structure shaking as it violently sorted the material. Rocks bigger than a fist were bounced off into a waste pile, which grew into a small mountain over the course of the season. The smaller gold-bearing gravel and sand fell through the screens and into a series of long channels called sluice boxes. These boxes are lined with a special matting, a kind of rubber carpet called miner's moss. Because gold is incredibly heavy, as the slurry washed over these mats, the tiny gold particles would sink and get trapped in the moss, while the lighter sand and gravel were washed right out the other end. For months, Roxanne roared without end, its sound the constant soundtrack of their lives. But as the season drew to a close, a hush began to fall as they reached the end of the pay. The beast was about to fall silent, and the fate of their entire season was sealed inside its metal guts. The walk to the gold room for the final cleanup felt different. The air was thick with tension and anticipation. This wasn't just another weekly weigh-in, it was the verdict.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Yeah, buddy.
It's amazing all we got done though this year.
Pretty wild, man. Hopefully we can get to that 7,000.
You never know. It'll be tight. Well, you guys made it work.
The entire crew, men and women who had poured their sweat and soul into the frozen ground, gathered outside the small, secure building. They had done their part. Now, all they could do was wait. What's really going on in these moments is a unique mix of hope and fear. Inside the gold room, Parker and his gold room expert Chris got to work. They carefully pulled the heavy mats from the sluice boxes. They were laden with black sand and, hopefully, a season-defining amount of gold. The concentrate was meticulously washed and then fed onto the shaker table. As the table vibrated, a brilliant, thick yellow line of pure gold began to separate from the dark sand. It was a beautiful sight, and the gold was coarse and heavy, the best kind for adding weight fast. Then, the gold was dried and poured into a stainless steel pan. It was a breathtaking pile of Yukon treasure. Parker carried the first container to the digital scale. The crew outside pressed against the window, their breath fogging up the glass. He began to scoop the gold onto the scale, and the red numbers on the display began to climb. 40, 80, 120, 140, 170. A quiet cheer went through the crew. He had already surpassed the 174 ounces he needed to hit his season goal of 7,000 ounces. The initial pressure was off, but it kept climbing. 200, 240, 260. The scale finally settled. We have 300 even. A roar went up, but there was more. He added the gold from a second larger jar. 50, 100, 150, 200, 250. The final number flickered and then held, 254.35 ounces. a total of 554.35 ounces for the week, over $1.1 million. It was the biggest single cleanup of the season. But the real number, the one that truly mattered, was the season total. Parker turned to his laptop. The crew fell silent again. He punched in the numbers. Our season total is 7,381.1 ounces for the season. You won't believe it. The number just hung in the air, 7,381.1 ounces. At the current market price, it was worth just under $15 million. In a single, brutal, make-or-break season, they had done it. They had clawed back the entire value of his monumental investment. The gamble hadn't just paid off. It had been a home run of historic proportions. More than just a payday. The celebration that erupted was about so much more than money. It was about vindication, survival, and shared success. In a moment of pure emotion and respect, Parker raised a bottle of champagne. But before anyone drank, he poured a little out onto the Yukon dirt. This is to those that helped you get started, those that helped you along the way but aren't here to share, he said, a clear and heartfelt tribute to his late grandfather, John Schnabel, the man who had taught him everything.
You look at that similarity and that vision that they both had, and you think, are these two peas in a pod?
I kind of like the role one grandfathers play because it's rewarding and sometimes it's frustrating.
The thing is, Parker took it one step further. He revealed a surprise he had been planning. He had taken some of the first gold they had mined from Dominion Creek and commissioned custom-made, solid gold tokens. He handed one to every single member of his crew. It was an incredible gesture. What's really going on here is that Parker was sharing the literal fruits of their labor, giving them a tangible piece of their victory to hold in their hands. It was a symbol that this was their success, not just his. The crew was overwhelmed. One of them spoke for everyone when he said, "Thank you for finding us a home." That one word, home, said it all. With this claim, they weren't just miners chasing a paycheck anymore. They had secured their future for years to come. They had a place. Parker, his voice thick with emotion, looked at his team and knew the risk had been worth it. "We have an unreal project with an unreal group of people," he said. "We're in a really good place for the future." A season this monumental doesn't just end when the cameras stop rolling. It becomes a legend. It fuels conversations and debates among fans all winter long. What really brings up a lot of questions is how exactly Parker pulled off such an incredible feat. One of the most popular fan theories is the sandbagging theory. The idea is that Parker, despite the on-screen stress, knew a lot more than he let on. Fans believe that his extensive geological testing and drilling gave him a very clear picture of Dominion's richness. They argue that while the risk was real, it was far more calculated than portrayed, and the drama of the gamble was heightened for television. Was he truly risking it all, or was he a master poker player holding a royal flush?
There's some really good drilling in here, actually. There's a lot of bad ones as well. So we just have to be bang on, because if you put the pit in the wrong spot on ground like this, you go broke.
Another theory is more sentimental, known as the grandfather's ghost theory. Adherents to this idea believe Parker is deeply driven by the legacy of his grandfather, John Schnabel. They see his toast and his work ethic as proof that he feels a guiding presence. To these fans, the Dominion success wasn't just a business victory. It was Parker fulfilling his destiny and honoring the man who set him on his path. And then there's the calculated risk theory. This idea comes from fans who don't just see Parker as a gold miner. They see him as a smart, young business leader. These fans believe that the $15 million he spent wasn't just a gamble. It was a well-planned move, based on facts, numbers, and a clear understanding of his crew's strengths. They think Parker didn't make the choice based on emotion or pressure. Instead, they say he looked at the data, studied the market, and knew exactly how much gold his team could pull out of the ground. In their eyes, Parker is like a CEO who knows when to take bold steps. The loud, confident Parker we see on screen is just part of the show. Behind the scenes, they believe he's thinking 3 steps ahead of everyone else. To them, Parker didn't just dig in the dirt, he made a smart business choice. And that's what makes him different from other miners. He's not just tough, he's smart. Every move is planned, every risk is measured. That's why fans who believe this theory think Parker is playing a bigger game than anyone else in the Klondike. To really understand why Parker's huge win at Dominion Creek was so amazing, you have to look at all the hard work he did for many years. His big success wasn't just dumb luck. It was like he was climbing a giant mountain, and this season was him finally reaching the very top. This big win, with its mind-boggling numbers and scary risks, was only possible because of his other wins in the past. Each victory was like a lesson in school that taught him something important and made him a better miner. His story can be seen in a few big steps, with each step being a major win that helped him get ready for the next one.
This is to those that help you get started, those that help you along the way, but aren't here to share. Let's pour that one out.
Cheers.
Cheers.
The first big step was when he was just a teenager. He had to prove he could do it on his own. At the time, he was working for his grandpa, John Schnabel, who was a legend in the gold mining world. Parker learned a lot, but he felt like he was living in his grandpa's shadow. He wanted to show everyone that he could be a great miner by himself, so he made a very brave choice. He left the family mine and went out to lease his own piece of land. It was a huge risk. If he failed, he would not only lose money, but he would feel like he let everyone down. The pressure was on, but he didn't give up. By the end of that first season on his own, he had found over 1,000 ounces of gold. This was a huge deal. It proved to his grandpa and to himself that he had a special talent for finding gold. After Parker showed he had the skills to mine gold, the next big thing was proving he could be the best. In the early days of the TV show, his biggest rival was a miner named Todd Hoffman. Todd was older and full of energy, but he often had trouble getting good gold. Parker, on the other hand, was young, smart, and really focused on doing things right. It was like watching 2 sports teams fight for the trophy every season. For a few years, both Parker and Todd were well known in the Klondike. They each had their own crews, fans, and dreams of hitting it big. But then, one season changed everything. Parker didn't just do well, he crushed the competition. That year, he found more than 3,300 ounces of gold. That was way more than Todd's team could get. This moment was a big deal. It wasn't just about gold, it was about respect. People started to see Parker in a new way. He wasn't just some smart kid anymore. He was the leader, the guy to beat, the new king of the Klondike. Winning that season proved Parker could run a team, handle pressure, and stay focused even when things got tough. From that point on, he was no longer the underdog. He was the top dog.
So what do you think keeps bringing viewers back season after season?
I mean, it's a very intense business that's, you have a very short amount of time. Like, we have 4 months to basically make, all the money that we can in a season. And so it's a very intense business that there's not a lot of room for error.
And everyone in the gold mining world knew it. Once he was the king, Parker's next step was to build his kingdom. He did this at his next big mine, a place called Scribner Creek. This was different because he would be mining there for many years. This allowed him to plan and build a much bigger and better operation. This was when he stopped being just a miner and started becoming a smart CEO. He bought bigger machines, hired a bigger crew, and created a system that was amazing at pulling gold out of the ground. He had great seasons year after year, showing that his success wasn't a fluke. One year at Scribner Creek, he found over 6,200 ounces of gold. This long time of being so successful made him a lot of money. More importantly, it gave him the knowledge and the confidence he needed to take on his biggest challenge ever. That final step brings us back to Dominion Creek. This was the ultimate test. To succeed here, he needed everything he had learned before. He needed the courage he showed when he first went out on his own as a teenager. He needed the competitive drive that pushed him to become the best miner on the show. And he needed the smarts of a CEO that he learned while building his kingdom at Scribner Creek. But this time, the risk was on a whole new level. He was betting $15 million. If he failed, he could lose everything he had worked so hard for. But he didn't fail. He smashed his goal and found over 7,300 ounces of gold, worth nearly $15 million. He basically paid for his entire bet in one single season. Parker Schnabel risked everything and won it all. But was it true courage or clever editing? Let us know what you think and smash that like and subscribe for more.